Portage County Board of Supervisors meeting, recorded October 7, 2024.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Portage County Board to order. Roll call.
We have 21 supervisors present. Supervisor Shabilsky is remote, and Supervisor Randazzo, Ware, and Yetter are absent.
Your display is not on up there.
Thank you.
There you go.
Game with the remotes.
We'll do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Correspondence. One, the Wisconsin Counties Association Forward Analytics on the brink, probing the coming senior care challenges. That's in your packet. Portage County Board of Supervisors and Department Heads Holiday Party. That's in your packet. Number 3, Draft Capital Improvement Plan Handbook Amendment Status Update. That's also in your packet, but I'm going to read it quickly. As a board, we have recently moved through multiple exercises to reassess the values and criteria necessary for CIP ranking and prioritization. Based on the board's work, Director Josie and Carl Green from UW Extension took our criteria exercises results and crafted a ranking based on points to reflect board values and priorities. We want to have staff give it a dry run with some basic projects to ensure it functions as hoped. And we also need to allow Director Josie's office time to finish up the budget data, which is being presented this evening. Once the staff are confident with the ranking functionality, it will be presented to Finance Committee as an amendment to the Capital Improvement Handbook. Once the handbook is updated, the county executive can work with staff to re-rank projects in the Capital Improvement Plan and bring them back as amended for the board to take action. Meanwhile, the capital projects that are currently not represented in the plan will be updated and added as well so that they may be included with this amended plan. Also, we have requested attorneys from Reinhardt, Boner, Van Duren, the law firm that was retained by the county to assist with aspects of the health care center review, to present to the board via committee of the whole in a panel discussion along with Michael Peer from Clifton Larson Allen, CLA. Some of you will remember Michael Peer has been here in the past to advise us on healthcare center issues. The panel will offer the board realistic options for a final determination, hopefully a final determination on the healthcare center going forward. While I recognize that this is a slower process than many of us wanted, I appreciate your patience and participation as we move ahead. Presentations, County Executive Pavelski's State of the County Address and 2025 Budget Presentation.
Thank you, Chair Reeser. Thank you, County Supervisors, ladies and gentlemen of the community, and department heads and employees. I just want to kind of start with a story. I think last time, I always get a kick out of my grandkids. I think last time I told you about my one grandchild who likes to jump off the top bunk of his bed. I've got another little grandchild, James, who he wanted to get a new bicycle, and comes from a family of 6. He's 10 years old, and his dad told him, well, you're going to have to go to work. Can everybody hear me?
Talk a little louder.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so my grandchild had to go to work, and his dad has a push lawnmower. He decided to start a little lawnmower business. They got, houses kind of next close to each other. It's kind of a block community. He charges $10 to do these like little postage stamp lots. I mean, me and you could either have it done like 10 minutes. It takes him about 20 minutes to do the job. One time he was doing a job. One elderly man come and watched him while he was working. And all of a sudden, when he was done working, he asked him, how long he's been doing this. He said he just started it this year. He hands him a $100 bill. I mean, talk about a kid getting excited, and he's mowing grass every 2 days. So it was an interesting experience for him, and it kind of encouraged him to keep on doing it. A good deed deserves another. I was over at Aldi's the other day, and I was just picking up a few things, and I saw this mom and this young girl picking up some groceries, and there was this one young girl with a mom. She was probably 2.5 to 3.5 years old, and she was just energetically getting the stuff for her mom that her mom would tell her to put into the grocery cart. And so that, just energetically doing it and just helping out and being obedient. And so that was kind of neat. And as I was going out, all of a sudden I went past this mom and young daughter, and she was inside the grocery cart, and she was taking them out and handing them to her mom, who was inside, or who was right outside, putting the stuff in the back of her SUV. And I thought, well, what a good time to probably encourage this little girl. So I went to the mom and I says, excuse me, but can I noticed that your daughter was very helpful, very obedient, very cheerful in all the things that she's doing. You mind if I give her something? And her mom said, that's fine. And so then I handed something out to the little girl, and the little girl looks at her mom, is like, can I take this? And it's like her mom said it was okay. She took it, and all of a sudden she looks at her mom in great big eyes. Mom, can we go back and get some more groceries? So you just don't know the effect of a compliment. And that's why one thing, actually, Don Benke, the head coach of SPASH, outstanding coach, we actually had his assistant over here speak, and we gave him an honorarium award. And one of his comments is, you don't know the power of a compliment. One thing before I even begin, I would like to compliment the finance department on their diligent, sacrificial work to get all the stuff done in time for you and present, enabling me to present this budget today. It's all, it balances, it provides for all the services the county is required to, and takes care of all the needs of the county. So, without further ado, there's a little bit of a delay. Okay, this is basically the tax levy, where all the components that it consists of. This is comparison 2024 to 2025. The top half tells the dollar amounts. The bottom half tells the amount per thousand that is going to be charged for your property taxes. You can see that actually the general operational levy actually went down from last year, about $60,000. The referendum for the healthcare center actually went down about $725,000. The overall debt levy went up basically because of our incurred debt from the Health and Human Services remodel. The bridge aid went down. There's not as much bridge projects going on this year. The countywide EMS increased for some services and some pay increases. Property chargebacks increased, and so the total was actually up by about $750,000. That all computes to $4.12 per thousand for your tax levy. Any questions on that? Okay, so what does it mean for taxes this upcoming year? The average median home went up $30,000 compared to last year. Last year was about 180, I think 184,000. This year, the average median value is up to $214,700. You times that, the $412 per thousand that you get charged, it comes out to about $884.56. That's up about $90 from last year. Now, it didn't come from tax levy, it basically came from inflation. That's your federal government, well, out of the COVID money that was the $7 trillion that was distributed throughout the country that caused inflation. So the price of homes, the price of everything went up. So that's what you're getting, is that increase of inflation caused your taxes to go up. And again, this is just an average based upon, your specific situation and your assessments on, wherever your property is at, and the town you are in can vary a little bit. So these are the budget assumptions. That were in this budget. Okay, the healthcare center, again, I talked about that. We're levying amount of $1,209,000. The county bridge levy is decreasing by about $140,000. The debt service tax levy is up by about $1.5 million. Again, the county a year ago, the legislature passed the supplemental and shared revenue legislation that increased county and municipalities getting more tax aid. That is going to amount to about $878,000 this year, about $20,000 more than we got last year. It helps an awful lot in balancing the budget, believe me. General and personnel increases are due to I decided to go with a 3% annual increase in our salary plan, along with a slight increase in WR's contributions. And there's also a 20% increase to the health insurance premiums for 2025, which I will talk to a little bit later. Also, investment income is increased to by approximately $1,020,000, reflecting continuing interest rate and changes to the investment strategy. Sales tax collections are actually down by $255,000 estimated compared to last year. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm keeping up.
Thank you. Okay, one thing you guys are going to be taking a look at after you get done with your capital improvement planning prioritization process is how much money we're actually going to potentially borrow based upon what capital improvements you put forth. How much we can actually borrow is based upon the total county equalized value, what that equalized value is across the top of this chart over the years. We can actually borrow up to 5% of that equalized value. That value is shown, again, in that chart. The outstanding debt we currently have right now is shown in the next line. We're at, we're projecting we're going to have about, at the end of 2025, we're going to have about $16 million in debt. The available total debt is below that. So we're only borrowing about, the percent of debt that we have available for borrowing is about another 96.4%. So, again, for the last 15 years, we have kept borrowing down in anticipation of large borrowing projects that have been on the plan for many, many years. So we are in really, really good shape when it comes to our debt, and we're poised to take on debt for capital improvement projects. This is the things that are in the capital fund. Because you're going through that capital improvement planning process, these are just some of the things that we will be prioritizing that will be in the plan once we get done. Once you get done with that process, we put in $900,000 in the capital improvement funding for this year, which You can just read these lines. It takes care of the capital improvements that have to be done on our assets during the year. You know, elevator regrade, elevator updates. You know, if a generator goes out, it's got some capital improvements for parks equipment. You know, so these are some of the things that we will be prioritizing after you get done with your prioritization process, and seeing, and also based upon what the departments say as far as when the timing of these needs will be. Okay, so one of the biggest decisions that I have as a county exec, it's actually my primary decision, is that, let's face it, people are your most important asset. The decision I have to come up with the front is how much are we going to spend in salaries and wages at the beginning of the year for the upcoming year. Because based upon how much we spend on the salaries and wages for the employees will depend on how much money we got left for such things as position requests, new position requests, reclassifications. Taking a look at it in order to keep up with our salary schedule, keep it updated and on track, in order to keep up with inflation, in order to promote employee retention. I chose to go with a 3% increase of above and beyond the salary program, so it amounts to about a 4.5% total increase in wages. If you lower the amount you give everybody else, then you actually have more money for potential position requests or reclassifications, and you'll see how it ended up once we did that. Okay, so these are the new position requests that are funded in the budget. It's basically a disability benefit specialist over the ADRC. I mean, trying to navigate Medicaid, Medicare, and disability benefits for the elderly is getting to be a real chore. I mean, you know, trying to figure out Medicaid A, B, C, D, E, F, and all the programs as they change. It's a resource that's really needed in the community so that they can help them get the best funding that for their situation. Health and Human Services basically has 4 positions that are basically going to be funded. Children's Long-Term Support Supervisor, Comprehensive Community Services, Mental Health Professional Supervisor, and 2 social workers. All these are grant funded. They can be thrown in the budget. The Solid Waste Department is looking at just putting a litter collection aid, and they're just going to use user fees to cover that to keep the community clean and presentable. Okay, these are the new position requests that were not included in the 2025 budget. The library had a half-time library specialist they would like to have over at the library. The Deputy Register of Deeds currently has a 30-hour per week employee. They'd like to go to 40 hours a week because of the amount of counter clientele that's coming into that office. The Sheriff's Department wanted 3 positions, 2 deputies and a lieutenant. One of their needs was better supervision on their patrol and during weekends. The social worker had requested for a crisis intervention personnel, and the zoning administrator wanted they currently have a half-time position. They want to make that into a full-time position. Director Reed, when he first came on, had a executive administrative assistant. He gave that up because he didn't see the need at that time, but now he feels that with enforcement and other duties that are going on in that department, he could use the extra help. But those, again, did not get funded. The thing is, these are not going to go away. These are coming back probably next year. This is something for your information that, you know, if you really see the need for these in the community, that's when we have the discussion. Let's not have the discussion in June and July. let's have the discussion in February and March. That's when we start planning for these positions that early, and to make sure that we can make that requisition to the finance department and know that this is what we want to do. These are reclassifications requests that are, again, not in the budget. The county clerk had asked for their administrative associate to go up from grade 17 to grade 19. The county clerk asked also for the chief deputy county clerk to go up from grade 24 to grade 26. The family court commissioner wanted to add some hours to their personnel. The ADRC wanted to have some grade upgrades for their nutrition program assistant and nutrition program manager. Health and Human Services had a child support assistant. And then we had 5 managers in the highway department that wanted to have a reclassification from grade basically 29, 30 up to 30 and 31. These are not in the budget, but due to levy restraints, funds for these positions were not budgeted for reclassification. Health and Human Services and the finance departments will continue to work with the departments on other funding possibilities outside the process for possible reclassification for these positions. For example, the Health and Human Services Child Support Assistant, that one's 60% grant funded. So, I mean, we can work with them within their budget to find the money to probably get that one appropriated. For the highway, we can do that with the ones that have the asterisk with. Those are the ones that we can work with the finance and HR department and work within their program, within their budgets to hopefully get those funded. The highway department ones we can work with the highway department for either comp time or weekend pay or some way to hopefully fund those reclassifications as well. But again, note these because these are not going to, if they don't get funded, be talking to your committees. If you're on the highway committee, if you're on the Health and Human Services committee, if you're on the ADRC committee, you're on exec ops committee, note these because these, again, if they do not get funded, will not come away. I need to have your input as far as what you would like to do if they don't get funded this year. Okay, some highlights.
I think it went too far.
I think we're both working it here.
Go ahead.
Yep. Okay, highlights for the health insurance. An expected decrease of $2,124,728 in fund balance for the use of anticipated health insurance claims and expenses due to existing claims trend. So far, 2024 has been a year of higher claims experience, which will continue to be monitored. We'll talk about that shortly once we get to the chart. An increase of $519,000 or 45.2% due to an increase of anticipated stop loss reimbursements by the stop loss insurance carrier for claims. An increase for anticipated pharmacy rebates and an increase in interest income. Intergovernmental charges for services increased by $1.3 million or 19.5% to reflect actual premium rate increases for 2025. Portage County used health fund reserves to cover the over $2.0 million gap in revenues versus expenses in 2023. and is estimated to use over $2 million in reserves to balance the health plan budget in 2024. These 2 years use significant amounts of health plan reserves. Health plan changes are needed to cover expected expenses starting in 2025. We're proposing a 20% increase in health care premiums. Health plan premiums are increasing 20%. Plan design changes are being implemented, and an increase in the employee contribution rate is being proposed to assist in increasing revenues to cover expenses for 2025. 2025 expenses are still expected to exceed revenues, and if expenses continue at this rate, additional changes will be needed for 2026. Portage County continues to offer 2 health plan options for employees: the preferred provider option PPO plan and the high deductible plan. Okay, I hope you can see this chart. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I might have hit the wrong button. Thank you.
It's okay.
I lose it. Okay, if you look at this chart, I can't put my pointer on it. I think it just gets eaten up. So you'll notice that we had a tremendous, excellent amount of fund balance in years. (2017) through 2022. Then in 2023, we had a $2 million shortfall. In 2024, we're expecting over a $2 million shortfall. And if expenses continue, then our fund balance will be run into drastically low levels. So that's why we're increasing our health care premiums by 20% this year. That was quite a blow to the budget. Okay, for some highlights. IT has done a tremendous amount of work this year in installing a lot of the equipment that was funded through the SLFRF. I mean, they put audiovisual in ADRC, the highway department, library. They upgraded all our computers. They put in the authentication software. So right now, IT is is a good funding position and is actually set for a few years to come. There's some capital improvement projects as far as the server upgrades and like that in the capital improvement project, but overall, it's in excellent shape. Information technology allocations are based on an increase of $135,000 or 4.5% to the other county departments. Managed print allocations are based on a decrease of $11,000 or 7.5% to other county departments. Right now, Shane is going through another print server provider. We're going to be discontinuing with our current one and going with another one, and it's going to save us about $11,000. The Register of Deeds revenues are expected to decrease, resulting from decreased recording activity, which is a result of increasing interest rates in the mortgage industry. Actually, they just recently came down. If they're going to come down enough to actually promote sales of homes, we'll see. But I think they actually got to come down more before actually home sales start picking up. But in the previous year, home sales were substantially reduced. Clerk of Courts, county share of fines for 2025 are expected to decrease $4,760 or 5.5%. County ordinance fines for 2025 are expected to increase $5,000 or up 4.5%, basically a wash between those two. Revenues are expected to increase $29,000 or 9.6% for court fees and court costs related to recoupment of guardian ad litem fees and attorney legal services. A decrease of $21,825 for passport fees that will be transitioning to the county clerk's office. Contractual services increased 10.4% due to increases for interpreter service and county appointed attorney costs. This interpreter service is getting to be quite an interesting thing. We have to have interpreters for many languages, Spanish, German, French, Hmong, and these people can almost choose what they want to get paid. Sometimes it can be up to $5,000 to $6,000 for an interpreter for one jury trial. Supplies and expenses are decreasing 13% due to juror meal and mileage because juries are anticipated to go down next year. The county clerk, they're going to get the increase of $21,825 for passport fees because they're taking the passport fee service on. Passport services will be transitioning probably about mid of 2025. A decrease of $50,806 from the prior year due to a change in the number of elections in the upcoming year. Supplies and expenses decreased by 29.8% due to reduction in scheduled elections in 25 compared with 2024. Things that happened in the public safety and the mass ambulance services, the property tax revenue increases $149,000 or 5.2% to fund increases to ambulance provider contracts and operations. A decrease of $58,000 or 17.8% due to decreased juvenile detention facility usage by other counties. Treasurer and tax collection, interest on taxes decreased $95,000 or 21.1% due to a reduction in delinquent taxes. The ADRC, the senior center class fees are expected to decrease $9,600. Nutrition fees are expected to decrease by $9,000. Project Life Program fees are going to increase by $3,000. Capital projects decrease by $138,000. The decrease is related to the removal of audiovisual equipment funded with the Greater Wisconsin Agency on Aging Resources. Surveyor. We are no longer going to have an elected surveyor after January 21st. We're going to be hiring our own surveyor. So there's going to be an addition of $18,000 for charges to highway for basically that surveyor will be working with highway for services and related work. We had personnel service had to increase by $86,000 due to the abolishment of the elected position. Contractual services decreased $10,000 or 71% due to the removal of the contracted survey services. That survey will also be working with planning and zoning. Some updates on the healthcare center. The property tax revenue decreases by $725,851 or 37.5% related to increased medical assistant rates for skilled nursing. Skilled nursing revenues are expected to increase $1,048,292 or 22.7% based on third-party payer information trends and changes to reimbursement rates, primarily due to increased rates for medical assistance. There's a decrease of $124,285 or 16.9% for private pay fees anticipated in 2025. Personnel services are going to increase by 0.7%, 0.7% overall, which includes a 3% annual adjustment for the county's wage and classification plan and corresponding fringe benefits. This year's staffing budget is going to be based on 30 residents and not 32. Supplies and expenses are going to decrease by $150,000, primarily due to a decrease in medical supplies of $160,000. Fixed charges increased $60,000 due to anticipated uncollectible accounts based on outstanding aging accounts receivable. Contribution to the fund balance includes an addition of $400,000 for emergency operations and architect and engineering expenses for capital planning for emergency capital replacement. Health and Human Services. Property tax revenue increases by $101,000 or 1.7%. for increased demand on child welfare and mental health service programs. An overall decrease of $435,903 or 4.8%, resulting primarily from decreases to various one-time public health funding allocations from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. OWI surcharge collections received from the clerk of courts and city municipal court fees are expected to decrease by $10,000 or 14.3%. A decrease in mental health services of 11.2 or $1,283,795, primarily due to overestimating revenue for the child's long-term support program the prior year. An increase of $99,000 to fund the health educator position and other prevention. Highway, an increase of $244,134 in Wisconsin Department of Transportation general tax transportation aids, and an increase of $199,777 in Wisconsin Department of Transportation local road improvement program funding. A decrease of $363,705 or 61.8% related to anticipated wetland mitigation credit sales. An increase in the amount of $872,285 or 5.6% overall billed to other local governments. A primary increase of $980,250 is related to construction projects billed to the Highway Special Revenue Fund. Capital outlay decrease of $575,000 related to the construction of the Wetland Mitigation Bank. Contractual services increased $761,245 or 6.4% based on the 2025 construction schedule. Supplies and expenses increased $1,774,227 or 39.4% due to roadway supplies and asphalt for the 2025 construction resurfacing projects. Solid waste. Contractual services increased $527,000 or 23%, primarily due to the following: an increase of $85,000 in hauling contracts, an increase of almost $58,000 in over tipping fees at Cranberry Creek, an increase of $250,000 for services related to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Project, and an increase of $119,000 for Marathon County tipping fees. Marathon County tipping fees per ton are $37.62 for 2025 compared to $34.83 for 2024, which represented an 8% fee increase. Capital outlay for the 2025 includes a $3,169,400 of expense related to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Project. Amanda worked diligently to put this project through. We got accepted. And the equipment purchases include 2 compactors. Building improvements include new roofs, compactor bay, fire suppression updates, ceiling tiles, and a push wall. An increase of $78,000 related to the recycling tipping fees. Planning zoning, an increase of 6.2% or $3,770 due to anticipated non-metallic mining fee increases. A decrease of $30,500 related to the removal of contingency fund transfers related to the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets for All project and a property. Anybody out, if you're in your communities, this grant is basically going to be upgrading any streets that supposedly are not safe. So if you have any intersections, any town roads, any village roads that you know of that you feel are not safe, contact the planning and zoning department so they can get on the schedule and be looked at for this grant, because there's a lot of money coming forward to evaluate. Once these streets are evaluated, the ones that are in the worst shape or the most unsafe will be prioritized, and then the ones that come to the top will probably be funded and worked on. Parks charges for services are expected to increase $14,000 or 3% for various park fees across all park services. That's basically all the highlights for most of the departments and the major additions, subtractions that took place in the budget. I've got nothing else at this point. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Seeing none, thank you, Executive Pavelski.
Thank you, Executive Pavelski.
Thank you.
Public notice. Oh, pardon me, Jenny, step right up.
Do you want to? Yeah, okay. All right. Earlier today, or late this afternoon, the budget in brief document was posted to the agenda site under the other tab. It is also now fully on the website as well, so if you wanted to follow along on your devices, or you can follow along on the screen as well. So it's our privilege to present to you the 2025 county budget. The 2025 county budget continues sustainable budget practicing and demonstrates our commitment to prudent financial planning. The county budget is a summary of our overall plan for allocating resources in alignment with the county's priorities for the upcoming fiscal year. I'm going to jump to page 9 of the document. The beginning is informational, and you can, of course, go back and read that. This document is a summary of the tax levy summary that County Executive Pavelski went through in terms of the different levies, the different amounts, and what they went up or down from the previous fiscal year. For comparison, it also has the information on it related to the median home value. And just to note that the 2025 budget is in compliance with the tax levy limit as defined in statute, and we are at the levy limit with this budget as well. Next page, please. Just overall for the countywide budget summary, this is all funds, so it includes the government and the proprietary funds combined. Overall, the total for fiscal year 25 is just over 140 million at 140.6 million, almost 140.7. Last year, the budget that you adopted was at 134.7. Just in comparison of the different categories, I went back and looked comparatively, and the budget at adoption was very similar in terms of spend, both in the expenditures and in the revenues as well. On the next page is another view of your all funds summary. It has a comparison to 2023 actual, your 2024 modified budget, our 2024 projections, as well as what the 2025 proposed budget is as well in the net change. We don't show on this document the 2024 adopted budget. We show the modified budget. So the modified budget contains all the budget amendments you've been approving throughout the year since you adopted the budget. It also contains any adjustments or carryovers that happened when we closed the prior fiscal year for capital, as well as state and local fiscal recovery funds. So the $134.7 million budget that you adopted last year is at $162.6 million right now. And the reason for that large increase is primarily state and local fiscal recovery funds and capital projects. Just a few things to note on here in terms of changes from year to year. Taxes, the major increases in this arena are the debt levy increase as well as the EMS levy increase. Intergovernmental revenues, the decrease is primarily due to state and local fiscal recovery funds. They decreased $4.5 million roughly from 2024 to 2025. Public charges for services, County Executive Pavelski mentioned the children's long-term support revenue is reduced as it was overestimated in the prior year for services. Intergovernmental charges are up, specifically or mainly due to health insurance premium increase. Miscellaneous revenue is down slightly. That's due to the insurance settlement that we're projecting for the Health and Human Services water event. And then in terms of note proceeds, the reason for the significant decrease of 64.7% from 24 to 25 is due to the notes you sold last month when we borrowed for the Ruth Gilfrey facility. So that's just a little snapshot of your revenues. In terms of your expenditures, this look is by kind of class of type of expenditure. So within the general government section and just kind of across the board, wages in general went up in all of these categories. So I'll just speak to the other items, but in the general government section, again, that has to do with the increase in health insurance expenses. Public safety, it's primarily due to increases in EMS provider contracts along with inmate housing, inmate food expenses, and medical expenses. Public works increases are primarily for highway projects and increase for the solid waste infrastructure projects you just heard about with the funding through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. HHS, the decrease there is related to a couple of things. One is, again, the children's long-term support. When the revenues go down, so do the expenses. Also, CCOP, we had a one-time kind of larger expense within that area. ADRC ARPA funding has been reduced going forward, so have the expenses, as well as some expenses in the healthcare center for therapy services, supplies were mentioned earlier, and some other contracts. And this is also a category where we had quite a few state and local fiscal recovery projects within it as well. Culture, rec, and education, that was primarily due to wages. Conservation and development, the large reduction there really has to do with state and local fiscal recovery projects. And then debt, the increase, it represents the new debt service schedule for the new bonds or notes that we issued. The one thing I will point out about the 2024 modified budget is that's what we should expect again for 2025 when we close out fiscal year 2024, because we've projected in the 2024 column that we're going to spend these funds for capital projects and state and local fiscal recovery. If they don't get spent, we will again at the end of fiscal year 2024 carry those projects forward and amend your 2025 budget to account for those projects because they're kind of ongoing multi-year projects. Next page is a very similar look, except for the expenditures are not by function anymore, they're by type. So it just gives you a look at what type of expenditure is it? Is it personnel? Is it contracts? Is it supplies? Generally, you can see personnel services went up 2.8%. That's related to the wage increases and health insurance premium increases. Grants and contributions had a significant drop, mainly because of state and local fiscal recovery funds. And you can see capital projects had a significant decrease again. State and local fiscal recovery projects was some of it. Some of it is the Gilfrey project as well, and other capital improvements. The next chart provides kind of a look at the budget by fund. This one is required in statute to show what we estimate. I'm catching breeze, sorry. To show what our fund balance will be at the beginning of 2025. Obviously, it's not 2025 yet, so this is all based on projections. So subject to change, but based on how departments think their spending will be for the remainder of this year, we've estimated their starting point for next year. It will also show property tax in terms of where property tax is in the different funds. That's that second column, so you can see the variety of funds and where property tax is. Under debt service, you can see the 5.593 794, which is what is in the 2025 budget. And then you can see the grand total at the bottom. The other thing I would want to point out is we also have to project what our ending fund balance will be for 12/31/2025 for the various funds. I will point out to you that this is a summary by fund. However, it does also include the county's proprietary funds, which are enterprise and internal service funds. Those balances really aren't fund balances. They're net assets of the entities because they're business-like operations. So those also include capital assets. So there's a notation to include that. The governmental funds do not include capital assets, so it's important to know that some of those balances seem higher because it also reports the capital assets of the entities that we're reporting on. One other thing to note, on the bottom of the report, there's designated and used, which shows you what overall is going into fund balance and what overall is coming out of fund balance, and it also shows by fund in the column second to last column on the right. Revenues and expense highlights. I kind of went through those. There is a series of graphs and charts just to give those readers who want to look a different view of the revenue breakout. I'm not going to really specifically say too much about that. On the next page, there's a little chart about the revenues and percent to total budget. So just some comparisons from the prior year. That would be noteworthy. This year, we're proposing that taxes are 33.2% of the budget. Last year was 34.2%. Intergovernmental revenue was 17.1, or is 17.1 for 2025. Last year, the adopted budget was 15.9. Public charges for services last year was 17.7. And intergovernmental charges for services last year was 20.7, and this year it's 21.5, so relatively comparable across the board. There's also a series of expenditure highlights and charts as well. Again, just kind of puts both the type and function kind of side by side, so you can see them comparison to various other years. Again, I won't kind of go through the ups and downs of those. There are some charts for those of you who learn by picture as well. And then again on the table with the graph, just some comparables. Personnel services in this budget is 38.7. Last year was 38.6. Contractual services last year was 43.5. This year upcoming year 41.3. And debt service would be the other one, just to point out. That one did increase from 3.2 to 4.2, which is expected with the increase in the schedules. Next page, general government, very similar, 20.5% last year. Public safety was 15% last year, this year 14.9. Public works last year was 22.4, and upcoming budget would be 22.9. Health and Human Services, that one had the most change. Last year was 28.9%, and the upcoming budget year would be 26.2, and the rest is relatively the same. Fund balance estimates. Again, we're required to break out fund balances for both 2024 and 2025 to kind of get to that end total for what we think is going to happen at the end of 2025. So we work on these schedules to get those numbers. I would just point out on this chart, there's a reason that there's no summary of fund balances for the enterprise funds and internal service funds, again, because they don't have fund balance. They're enterprise and internal service funds are business funds. So that's why you do not see those numbers represented. And you can see the different totals by non-spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned by fund type for both estimated at the end of 2024. And then the next page is 2025. The unassigned fund balance, that's the fund balance that is at your discretion in terms of spending. The other category is non-spendable is just what it indicates. It's not spendable. Restricted is restricted by an external entity such as the state or through statute for some specific purpose. Committed is committed by this board. Annually, we bring forward a resolution and have this board commit those funds for specific purposes. A lot of those are for things like vehicle replacement or specific capital projects that are kind of ongoing, and so on and so forth. So the unassigned value is about $20.3 million. We have a formula that tells us what that number can be. That's on the next page. And that formula is that it can be 15 to 25% of the total expenditures of the governmental funds that use levy. So based on this calculation, at the end of 24, we will be at the 25%. And for 2025, we're estimating we will be right around 22.8% if everything goes according to the plan we put before you. And there's a little history of what the fund balances have been. And on the next page is just a little chart to kind of compare expenditures to unassigned fund balance and the percent. The next page is to just describe the budget process and timeline. Here we're all the way down to October in terms of where we're at. October is a big month. Tonight you will have heard County Executive Pavelski's presentation. The budget is now yours. So now there are some upcoming meetings after this. We will publish the budget as required by law. You will have a meeting on the 15th, at which time there will be Q&A if you have questions or want to talk about the budget or refer to committee or whatnot. Committees can meet and choose to talk about the budget. On October 28th, Finance Committee will approve a resolution to forward the budget on to the county board for the meeting on November 4th. At that meeting, they can take up any amendments that might be presented before them as well. Those amendments are due to our department by October 21st. And in order to make it on the agenda for October 28th. Finance Committee will entertain any of those and make recommendations, but any amendment that is before them will make it to the county board for the packet, for sure. If committees want to have conversations regarding the budget, they are welcome to do so. They are welcome to invite myself. I'm sure County Executive Pavelski would also attend, or if you want finance liaison staff to attend a meeting to talk about certain aspects of the budget, they're more than happy to do so as well. November 4th was the date set or about to be set to adopt the budget and hold the public hearing. Hold the public hearing, then adopt the budget. I should put them in order. And that's kind of what will be happening kind of in the next few months. Adopting the budget is a simple majority. On the next page, it talks about the budget amendment process. And as you're all aware from approving budget amendments every month, that's a 2/3 majority vote process. Debt service highlights. I put in a few tables regarding debt service just to kind of show our outstanding debt. Our outstanding debt at the end of 2004 will be just almost $17.5 million. We anticipate a debt issue in 2025 for highway for about $4.5 million, which would put our outstanding debt for 2025 at about 16.7. And included there are the charts, and Executive Pavelski also went over these as well. The next page is just informational. It kind of it presents to you the debt service schedule for the outstanding payments that are due, and just a nice chart on the general obligation debt per capita for our county. Capital funds project summary. The only thing that's included here are the projects that are in the enterprise funds as included in the budget. As you heard earlier, as the board kind of finalizes its project of reviewing the capital planning process, we will discuss capital projects again once that process is done, and then allocate the dollars that are in the capital budget to the projects that are decided upon at that time. As of now, there's $900,000 allocated in the capital projects budget towards those projects, but they're not assigned to any specific project until you're done with your work. The next page is just informational on the 2024 capital achievements, as well as what is currently in the 25 to 2030 capital improvement plan that you adopted previously. Again, it's informational. It's not all inclusive. It's just a highlight of some of the projects in both. Equalized property value by municipality is a chart of a 3-year kind of look by municipality of the changes in equalized value. As a county, we increased 6.62% overall. Equalized value has been increasing for the county at a steady rate the last couple of years. On the next page, you can see that the percent change from previous year for Portage County was 6.62%, 10.37%, 10.89%, 6.18%, and then it lowers from there. But the last number of years, the growth has been substantial. You can also see on here our percent net new construction history, as well as the overall levy and tax rate and changes year by year. Authorized positions and FTE summary. The one thing that's interesting in this for 2025, we actually increased 1 position overall, and we decreased 1.54 FTE. There's usually a lot of moving parts, and you'll see that in the actual budget document itself, but for 545 permanent positions along with seasonals and LTEs to get to 1.54 is kind of unheard of. Summary of authorized positions. This is just a chart showing where the positions are by function. New position requests, County Executive Pavelski went through. These are the new position requests that are in the budget only. The reclassification requests that are in the budget only, which there are none. And the last page here is the full county budget is on the county website. The budget document includes an introduction section, summaries, more expansive than this, a financial policy section, an overall operational funds that breaks out each individual fund and its revenues and expenses, a debt section, a capital section, departmental information where every department puts in information regarding not only its overview for its department, but its accomplishments and its initiatives for the upcoming year. This year we added a statistics and performance measurement section, work in progress, so it'll get better over time. But just know that we're trying to provide more information little by little each year. And then there's also an appendix section which provides more information. So it's 272 pages of evening reading if you want to give it a tackle. So with that, I would just like to say that, as we plan future budgets, the impacts of inflation along with state-imposed levy limits make continuing core services at the same level more challenging. By maintaining the county's strong financial position and sufficient fund balance levels, along with commitment to providing services to residents, Portage County will meet these challenges with innovative solutions and move forward. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the county board for their continued support, thank County Executive Pavelski for his patience. The development of this budget reflects the tremendous dedication and hard work of department directors and their staff, along with a very talented and devoted finance department team in making decisions that truly reflect the county standards of service to our community. So thank you.
I just want to extend a very sincere thank you to Director Josie and her staff and department heads. This is a massive effort. And in this case, this was a massive effort with a lot of detail that we asked her to complete in a short time frame, along with a host of other issues we've tasked her with doing, including updating the capital improvement plan handbook and helping us out with kind of reviewing the whole process of coming up with our ranking and priorities. So again, Director Josie, thank you very much. And apologies for a very short introduction. Supervisor Machikowski.
Director Josie, I ask this question every year, and some year I'm going to get an answer. As I look at page 31 of your budget and brief, I see the top heading there. It says 2025 equalized value reduced by TID value increment. What is that reduction? Because I want to know what it is across the county, because I did some quick math here, and I know that the city of Stevens Point, because they had to ask for an exception, so they're over 12% of their equalized value is their TID district value. If I take that 12% of their equalized TID district value divided by 1,000, times it by our mill rate, that's $1.2 million that the county's missing out of in tax dollars. What is that for the rest of the county?
So I don't know the answer exactly to your question on the spot, but I will research it. I do know that for the purposes of net new construction, TIDs are included as part of the growth for that calculation, but they are not part of the overall number in terms of how the levy gets apportioned to municipalities. So I can bring that back on the 15th.
And you're not I don't expect you to have the answer, but no one can ever give me the answer what TID districts cost the county per year in tax dollars. And even at the Department of Revenue, it falls on deaf ears. There has to be a number, because we have it right here where it says equalized value reduced by TID value increment. I need to know what that TID value increment is. That's the question
So I have a listing of TID value increments by municipality, and I can definitely get that out.
I would appreciate it.
I do know, though, from my research through the years, that TID, the net new construction growth does include TIDs in the 1.67%, but it does not include it in the apportionment to the municipalities, because the municipality, my understanding of TIDs, which is the municipality with the TID still produces that revenue, but they keep it for development for the TID. So, but I have values by municipality. I think they were actually in probably our last finance committee packet as well. But I do have those, and we can email them out if that's okay with the chair.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Again, thank you, Jenny. And now, public notice. Members of the public who wish to address the county board on specific agenda items must register their request at this time with such comments subject to the public comment ordinance and the reasonable control of the county board chair as set forth in Robert's Rules of Order. We don't have any? All right. Thank you, clerk. Review approval. I'll take a motion for the approval of the September 17th, 2024 minutes, approved by, pardon me, Stan. Approved by Stan, seconded by Splinter. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Minutes are approved. Resolution ordinances. Number 6, establishing November 4th, 2024 as the official annual meeting date of the Portage County Board of Supervisors for 2024. Before we go to this, if there's no objection, I would like to make a technical change to the resolution so that it reflects today's date as the date of adoption. Seeing no objection, I would take a motion. Motion by Dubek, seconded by Jankowski. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Number 8, resolution authorizing an additional 8 hours per week for the 32-hour per week risk management specialist position at the Finance Department in accordance with Human Resource Policy 3.11.5.1 new position requests. Motion by Marissi to approve, seconded by Morrow. Any discussion? Supervisor Rakowski.
I will be abstaining.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with one abstention. Number 8, approving and authorizing the life, AD&D insurance and long-term disability insurance plan provider for the Portage County Fringe Benefit Program. Motion by Olkey, seconded by Eggleston. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, approving and authorizing Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield as Portage County's health plan administrator for 2025. Take a motion. Motion by Olkey, seconded by Rakowski. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next meeting date, we're looking at October 15th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Splinter, seconded by Fritz. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.